the Black Wealth Boot Camp, something we kind of do for fun, and it's exciting for me. We ask everybody to shout out their city. So do me a favor and tell me real quick what city you're from, so I'll just know what cities are being represented. Okay, I see Shaquita from ATL, Joe from Raleigh, Erica from Bridgewater, New Jersey, Ernest Fort Lauderdale, Renee from ATL, a lot of Atlanta in the building, Deborah from Seattle, Joseph from Poughkeepsie, Cleve from Stafford, Virginia, Vernon from Wilson, North Carolina, Robert from St. Louis, Charnay from Savannah, PJ from Houston, H-Town, Falana from Atlanta, Quentin from Union, Lisa from Colorado Springs. Okay, and I'll just name some more cities I see here. I see San Diego, Washington, D.C., Huntsville, L.A., Phoenix, Escondido. Okay, anybody international? We usually have somebody from China or something. I don't see China or Australia or anything. So usually somebody just wins the award for being the farthest away. In the boot camp, we actually had some Chinese students or black students who were people who were living in China who were actually tuning in like at 3 o'clock in the morning or something. And which so anybody who ever says that black people don't have determination when it comes to getting the information that we need, they're out of their mind, because I know a lot of very determined black people. Now, Shaquita says she loved your interview about Lupita Noma. By the way, just so you know that. Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So let's get to it. First and foremost, Noma, I want you to start by kind of telling me why you're here. Now, what I know about you is that you're a wife and a mother. You're a former college professor. You're the founder of HealthyBlackWoman.com and theblackhomeschool.com. I know that you were the 2012 Mrs. Botswana, which I just think is a cool thing to mention, because most of us never get, I'll never be Mr. or Mrs. anything. And so, I think that's kind of cool, because it takes a lot of hard work to win these pageants, a lot of discipline. And I've known you for years as a very passionate, disciplined person when it comes to doing what you have to do to achieve your goal. So tell me more about you so that we can kind of hear that.
Sure. The main reason I'm here is I'm a person who has, I like to think, successfully made the transition from working a full-time job to being self-employed. I now homeschool my kids, and I do a few things to build multiple streams of income, and I think that I have some information that might benefit somebody who's in that position that I was in before I quit my job and is thinking about what moves to make in order to emancipate themselves or free themselves from the 9 to 5 and start doing something on their own.
Okay, interesting. So, by the way, Noma, let's see. Katerina says that your feedback is a little bit, or your audio is giving a little feedback, and your sound is muffled. And Vicky says that she can't hear you. So, is there any way your audio?
I'm gonna adjust my mic.
Okay, yeah, try.
Is that better?
Okay, say something. Tell us what you ate for breakfast, and then if everybody can hear that, then we'll know we're ready to go.
Coffee.
That's not a breakfast. Come on. Okay, make some stuff up. Tell me what you wish you had eaten for breakfast. Eat anything you want.
Coffee is a valid breakfast for beauty queens.
That ain't no breakfast. That's not good. Don't eat coffee for breakfast. That don't work. Okay. All right. So it sounds like it's better. Okay. Timasha, I hope I pronounced that right. Alicia Holloway, she says it's better. Okay, it looks like everything's good now. Okay, so we're ready to move and make this happen. All right, so let's start from the beginning. I think that the reason that we're qualified to really talk about this topic is because we've done exactly what we say that, or we're telling other people that they could do, should do, and how to do, right? You and I both had a point where we were both working when we met each other. When we were first started working together, we were both working for other people, and we kind of just said, okay, you know what, this is for the birds. And we did what a lot of people do, which is sit. And a lot of you ever notice there's a lot of black people, they get together and they just complain about what, honestly, what white people are doing to them every day at work. I mean, does anybody else have these conversations, or is it just me? Where you just sit there, you eat dinner, and you're like, oh Lord, let me tell you about the people on my job, and this lady, oh, and she came in my office, and she had the nerve to ask me, you know what I mean? Like, we all have these conversations, and you and I were having a lot of these conversations. I was dealing with my controversy at Syracuse, which some of you can even Google some of that. I mean, it got really heated. I mean, I was really going toe to toe with these people, and you were this close to filing lawsuits, right? I mean, tell me about that.
Yes, that is correct. Well, it would take the whole hour to tell the whole story, but needless to say, the short story was that I basically was not treated well, to the point that I was miserable where I was working. I loved being a college professor. I loved the students, but the administration and the people that I worked with, um, I had no choice but to believe that they felt that young black woman just didn't belong there, and they did everything to make me feel like I didn't belong there, from nitpicking my work and doing all kinds of things where if I had not walked into that place knowing that I was competent and confident and adequate to do the job, I would have believed that I actually wasn't.
Hmm.
And I ended up deciding that it was not worth it. I had two small children at home that needed me, and I had already been building something that I thought that down the line, 10 years, 15 years down the line, I was going to leave this college professor job. And it occurred to me that maybe I should start moving on that much faster. And I did. And I'm not going to say it was easy, but I'm certainly glad that I did it.
Well, it's funny when you talk about that thing about you said if you had not already known that you were competent to do the job, you would have felt like you were not competent. And it's so interesting because I think a lot of us go through that. A lot of us as African Americans, we go into the workplace and we're sort of fed these lies about ourselves, and it's hard to discern because if you're a person who believes in holding yourself accountable and someone gives you criticism, your tendency might be to believe that it's valid criticism. Because you don't want to ignore valid criticism. I mean, if you suck at your job, then you want to know that so you can get better. So, but what if you're going
Right.
into situations where you're qualified and people are telling you you're no good, because they're nitpicking? I know I went through that as well. I know that when I was going up for tenure is it's kind of like welfare for scholars. Like you get this lifelong job and all this stuff, and because it's like a
Your
big
forever
promotion.
job.
Yeah, yeah, and it's kind of what all the scholars live for. Like that's why, unfortunately, so many of them are all afraid to do anything controversial because they got this tenure thing over their head. But I remember just kind of going up for tenure, and my whole life I'd worked so hard. I mean, getting my PhD was the hardest thing I ever did in my life. I was in school from age 22 to age 31 because I had to get several master's degrees along the way. I started, it was too hard. I had to go back and spend 3 years studying math, nothing but 3 years of math to get my math level high enough to be able to compete with these geniuses from China and Russia that I was sitting with in class. And I finally do all this, I work with some of the best people in the world. And then I get this job, and now I got to hear these people telling me I'm not good enough. And I'm like, what? I don't understand. I mean, I'm already working 12 hours a day. I'm doing everything in my power to be good at this job, and you're still telling me I'm not qualified. And what affected me was that this was very similar to what I heard in elementary school. When my white teacher would see me, I'd raise my hand too many times or whatever. I had a lot of energy as a kid. Suddenly they're telling my mother, "Oh, well, your son, he's not as bright as the other kids, and this fancy chart says that he needs to be on medication and he needs this." And I remember my mother said, hell no. My mother fought for me. And so I remember when I went in to talk to my boss about what certain people were saying, I said, I'm not going to accept this evaluation because you're not qualified to evaluate competent African Americans. You haven't even hired a black person in 30 years for this job. So that clearly shows that you're not qualified to even know a qualified African American when you see one. And that was kind of what I was going through. And what's interesting to me, Noma, you can tell me what you think about this, but I mean, it seems like everybody has a story like this, right? I mean, is that what you've seen?
Absolutely, absolutely. I've met a lot of people, and there were people that I met at the college, the few black people that were there, who had just kind of decided they was going to suffer through it.
Mm,
And my saving grace personally was I had two mentors who were much older than I, and they happened to be African American men. And they understood how much value I brought to the position that I was in. And they did a lot for me, and they did a lot in terms of making sure I dotted my I's and crossed my T's so I could stay in the job. And the other thing was they also reassured me that, trust me, all this criticism and all these things that are coming your way are not necessarily because of your competence or your ability to do the job. It has a lot to do with a decision or an assumption that was made about you before you even got the job. So that's when I really began to understand that I was dealing with something much bigger than just my boss telling me that, whatever she was telling me, that it was a pattern. And they had seen a lot of young black scholars come and go. And they told me, they said, I hope you'll stay, but if you don't, you won't be the first to come and just say, nope, I'm not dealing with this, and then leave, because you have your whole life ahead of you and you could do something else.
Mm. Wow, and that's people, that's what we're dealing with. I mean, we're not here to wallow on the negative at all. We're here to talk about solutions. But I think to properly construct the solution, we have to look at the problem and realize that it's not just a problem that should be dissected in our own lives. We have to understand the systematic nature of the problem. That even though none of us is perfect, I don't know about you, but I'm not perfect. I'm sure there were days where I did make mistakes on the job. What we live with is a world where there is a microscope sometimes put on us, that makes our problems look so much bigger and so much worse than everybody else's problems, and it's consistent with what happens even in the criminal justice system, places like that where you see black men get these 100-year prison sentences for stuff that maybe college students do on the weekends, and it's no big deal, right? So without further ado,
Yeah.
without dwelling on that, let's now talk about the process of jumping off the plantation. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to sort of we're going to sort of be responsive to what the audience would like to know. So I don't want you guys to be shy about asking questions and making comments. And just for the record, Andre wins the furthest away award. He's in Toronto. And so if anybody's further away than Toronto, shout out your city so you can take the throne away from Andre. Um, Robert says he can identify with everything except leaving. Yeah, I agree. That's the thing. Most of us, unfortunately, we're trained from birth. We're prepared from birth to endure this. And this is what's interesting. When I got to know you, one thing that was interesting to me was that being from Africa, or being from Botswana in particular, you weren't ready for you weren't used to this. You weren't used to being treated
Right.
in this way, and they kind of reacted to that, right? They're kind of like, well, who does she think she is, right? I mean, did they kind of give you some of that?
Oh, absolutely. I remember one of my mentors telling me, he used to actually laugh, even though it wasn't really funny. And he's like, the way you're reacting to this is so big. And unfortunately, some of us who were born and raised here, we've had this happen to us so much that to some degree we're actually used to it and tolerant of it happening. But you are so outraged by what is happening and what people are doing that is unfair, that it's actually starting to make me realize that nobody should be accepting it. But the other thing was, it made me that much more determined to do something on my own, because I knew that I couldn't live like that. And again, I keep mentioning I had two small kids at home. I couldn't eat up all my energy and frustration and all this other stuff and get home worn out and have nothing to give, because I was giving all my time, attention, and getting frustrated and getting a headache at work. I just couldn't do it.
Mm, interesting. Well, I think that when you talk about oppression, it is something that you're trained to accept at an early age. I remember, and I can include myself in that category. I remember when I was at University of Kentucky, and my mentor, who was from Chicago, he was being, mistreated as a faculty member. I was an undergraduate, and I was kind of watching him go through this, and he was so mad, and he was outraged about the way the whites were treating him on his job. And he said, "Boyce, I can't believe that they're doing this, and I should have got the teaching award because my ratings were better than his, and I should have got the promotion." And I remember back then, when I was more conditioned to accept oppression, to be honest with you, as a young man, I was sort of like, well, why are you surprised? I mean, this is the way they always treat us. And I realized where he came from. He wasn't used to that, and what it taught me was that it's okay to be angry as a black person. It's okay to get mad. If somebody mistreats you, you're supposed to speak up, right? But so many of us are afraid of that stigma of being the angry black man or the angry black woman. And and then really, when you get really mad, they can write you off as being crazy. I remember there was one professor I did see, and this was back when I was an undergrad, and they had made her so mad because racism makes you insane almost. I mean, it literally can drive you crazy. She gotten so mad that she done something where she took some report and went to the dean's office and ripped it up and threw the paper all through in the hallway. And so no one was talking about the cause of her reaction. they were only talking about the symptoms. They were only talking about her response. Like, oh, well, did you see what that crazy lady? And I remember hearing a racist woman who actually, she literally was racist. Her ex-husband was a member of the Ku Klux Klan. That's how funny. That's how crazy it was. And I remember her saying something to somebody else, and she didn't know I overheard all this, but she said, yeah, well, that's, when we hired them, that's what they do. They just go and they go crazy. And that lady down the hallway, she got mad and ripped up the paper. So you just kind of see this. So anyway, now what I want to do is dig in and see if you guys have questions and comments. But let's see here. Shaquita says unschooling is for Black people today, and I think that means that we should be unschooled or homeschooled, and I agree with that. Renee says I feel Noma's story so much. That's basically what happened to me at my last plantation, aka job. Shaquita says to Noma, what is your message to Black American entrepreneurs about business in Africa? What do you think, Noma? Uh-oh.
Business in Africa.
Hmm. Or living in Africa
Um,
as an entrepreneur, one of the two.
well, I actually do kind of try to live in both my home country, Botswana, and the U.S. I usually escape the Boston snow by going to Botswana. And what I encourage everybody to do is whatever you decide to get into, whatever business you decide to get into, make sure it's global. My business is probably 80% online. So even when I'm in Botswana, I'm still running my business. And that's what I encourage. I think you should always have a business that's global and that's mobile so that you could be anywhere and doing business.
Yeah, well, you and I, we're able to work together on stuff even when you're traveling constantly. In fact, I remember, now that I think about it, I mean, we've only actually been in the same room like on one particular
One,
occasion. Yeah, I mean, but we
right.
worked together what, 5 years now, something like that. I don't remember what year.
Four, yeah, almost, yes.
Yeah, it's been a long time, but we work together all the time, every day, and we were able to achieve our goal of kind of getting away from the job by kind of, first of all, taking that leap of faith. I mean, at first it was kind of scary, a little shaky, right? Didn't know what was going to happen, didn't know how things were going to get paid for, and then but you kind of stick to the vision, you kind of make a plan, and you keep working and moving forward. And then what I found, and you can tell me what your experience was, but I found that. You make a little bit of money here, a little bit of money there, and then before you know it, you've got enough to pay your bills, and then you hit the point of no return where you just say, you know what, well, I'll just tough it out because I'm not interested in really going back. That's kind of what happened with me. Now, what about you?
Absolutely. I put a few talking points here, and one of the things that I said was very important is while you're employed, it's important to have what's called a side hustle, um, which means that you're spending some amount of time away from your job building something. And when I was a college professor, there was always this thing about the ratio of when you spend an hour in class, you should also spend another hour outside of class. And the way I look at it is maybe not an hour, but if you're going to spend 8 hours, at least 8 hours working a job for somebody else, you just at least spend half of that time outside the job working for yourself and building something for yourself. And it doesn't have to be anything that solid. It could be just getting ideas together, doing something. But the truth is, unless you get started, you're going to be stuck in that job. Nobody quits their job one day and then miraculously has a job, their business built overnight. It's just not going to happen. It takes 2, 3, 4, 5 years. So you have to start building while you're in your job.
Mm, I agree. I think that's a very good point. The fact is, whether you leave your job or not, everybody should have a side hustle. You should always have something else going on. And there's this fundamental question that I've heard people ask, and I agree with this question. But really, if you think about the question, it has a pretty simple answer. But the question is, why would you spend more time building someone else's dream than you spend building your own? Right. And that doesn't make any sense. It seems illogical on the surface, which it is, but part of it is not entirely illogical. The reason that you spend more energy building someone else's dream than your own is because, one, you have more faith in their dream because their dream is more real. They've got a business, they've got a corporation. You can touch it. It's making real money, so it's very easy to believe more in something that is physical, that actually has a real presence, than something that's simply a construct of your imagination, right? And that's where faith and focus and motivation come into play, because there's a period of time where the only person keeping your dream alive is you. It's like a newborn baby, very fragile, very vulnerable. And it might just be you and the baby. Your dream is your little baby, and you got to protect that baby until it's big enough to protect itself. But then the other thing is the instant gratification dimension of that, right? If I go and work for you and you've got an established business, and then at the end of the week you're going to give me a paycheck. It's real money. I can take that money and go to Walmart, Kmart, all these other big white businesses we love to give our money away to, and I feel good about myself, and because I've got the money in my pocket, and then on top of that, maybe you've given me some sort of prestige, some sort of artificial prestige, but it feels real nonetheless because it's a big physical entity, and they've given me this title. They've patted me on the head, said, you did a good job, Boyce. Here's more money, and here's a big fancy office, and some fancy title you can put on your door, and so you can go tell your mama you are somebody. And what's so interesting about that, though, is that number one, all this stuff that's real, all these physical manifestations of somebody else's dream that we can see and touch and feel, that at some point was a figment of someone else's imagination, right? The Ford Motor Company at one point was only a vision that Henry Ford had in his dream. It wasn't a multi-billion-dollar anything. He had to believe in that dream enough to plant the seeds to make it happen. Number two, that instant gratification of kind of getting that paycheck, it's not bad. It's nice, but in a way, it's like getting water out of a faucet. When someone else controls the faucet, they control the flow of the water. And so if they stop the flow, you're gonna be thirsty. You'll have nothing, right? That's very different from digging your own well and having access to your own water, right? Owning the land where the pond is located, so you can have an infinite water supply. And then the last part, this prestige thing. One of the problems we have as black people is that we are absolutely addicted to validation from whites. We need it. We need white people. We need what we call it mainstream. We need that mainstream validation. Well, who controls mainstream? It ain't black people most of the time, right? So we need this because we don't feel that we have anything worth pursuing, right? If you look at the Oscars, if I go win an Oscar, I mean, is there really kind of a really authentically black equivalent to the Oscars? Maybe you could say an NAACP Image Award, but even the NAACP wasn't created by black people, right? There were a couple of black people on the committee, but it was predominantly a white-centered kind of organization that was designed to kind of help black people. Like we're this sort of hopeless case of welfare recipients that can't survive unless someone takes care of us, right? So we really need that validation in order to feel like we're important. And what I will say to you is throw the validation out the window. Jesse Jackson used to say it back in the day. He used to say, "You are somebody," and it's cliche, it's tacky, but I love it. Because what I get from that is you are somebody, even if you don't get that promotion, even if you don't get all the prestige and all the awards and all these other things they hang over your head in exchange for good behavior. You see, you don't do that. You don't let you don't let a group of people who violated your community in so many ways control access to your self-esteem. You can't do that. It's very dangerous. And then the other thing I'll say, and then I'll shut up on this, is when you talk about the financial part, there is a sacrifice. So sometimes if you have the side hustle and the side hustle is making you a little bit of money, it can make it a little easier to walk away. I know that when I first started my side hustles, they weren't making me any money. They were actually losing me money. But I took pride, number one, in saying this is mine. And one day it's going to be important, and I'm going to treat it like it's important now. I'm going to pretend like the name Dr. Boyce Watkins means something, even though nobody cares who Dr. Boyce Watkins is. So 10, 15 years ago, I was trying to see a lot of what I'm seeing today, right? But there was a time where, nobody cared who I was. Nobody wanted to read anything I wrote and talk to me. None of that, right? I had to make them believe, and but in order for me to make other people believe in anything I was doing, I had to be the first believer, almost like a religion. I had to literally hypnotize myself to be so focused on my vision that it was as real as the concrete on the floor in the room in which I'm standing right now. So fall in love with your vision, fall in love with your dream, be proud of your dream, and give your dream the respect it deserves. Because sometimes the reason you don't chase your own objective and you will acquiesce to a vision someone else has built is because you don't respect your dream and you don't respect yourself. I'm going to stop talking, Noma. I did not mean to say that much, but please go ahead. Did you have something to say on that?
I'm sure. And just to piggyback on what you said, one of the things that I can say, and I know I went through this, is that, having a job gives you this illusion of stability. because you feel like, okay, I have a regular income, I can do things and so forth. But what I started to see, you know, I've lived to be this age and I've never been fired from a job in my life, but I have certainly seen people being fired. And I've seen them from going to so-called stability to then instant instability, especially if they didn't plan well. But again, what I would encourage somebody to do who's in a position where they're kind of looking at their life and they're thinking, I want to make a change, is you want to start building a community, whether it's online or in person. And this community is going to be people who are going to take advantage of your services or products, whatever it is you end up offering down the line when you build your own thing. They're going to be people who you can find mentorship, you can find encouragement, you can find workout partners, business partners, all kinds of things. But ultimately, you have to start building a community. And, you know, again, we live in the age of social media, so building a community is certainly much easier. For me, I'm more or less a stay-at-home mom, so I don't necessarily want to be going every day to a network meeting over there and doing this and going so many different places, but I get to do so much networking through social media, and I do build communities. I have several communities. Some are moms who stay at home and homeschool, some are women in business, some are Africans living in America. Whatever it is, you're building communities, and once you build communities, you start to be known and you start to know people who can help you along the way, and you can also help other people. And that's what really being in business is about. It's about giving a product or service that people need and can use and solving their problems. And you do that for each other and you'll go far.
Mm. Well, I love it. Now, what I will say, I want to go to the questions here. I see that Demetric Shorter says, if you don't have FU money, and you know what FU money is, don't you know? Okay, yeah,
Yes.
my students know what FU money is. FU money, everybody, is the money that you have in your account so that if your boss disrespects you, you can walk in the office and say, F you, I quit. He says,
Right.
if you don't have FU money, how reasonable is it to leave? It feels impossible without FU money. Noma, what do you think?
Well, you know, it depends on your circumstances. I'm a married woman, been married for 10, going on 11 years. I have two kids, three if you count my stepdaughter. So I have a lot of responsibility. And even when I have FU money, I would prefer it to be 6 months worth of FU money so I could walk away. And in my situation, I wouldn't recommend somebody just throwing everything on the ground unless you have a wonderful husband like I do who could pick up the slack. But I wouldn't recommend that. I think that it's important not to throw yourself into a situation where you're now in a crisis. On the other hand, if I was maybe a young single woman in my early 20s and I'm having this horrible job, maybe moving in with mom and dad for a focused amount of time so I can start building something and get some help, maybe that's an option. It just depends who you are and what your goals are and where you are in life. I do again emphasize that even when your job feels wonderful, start building something. Because even if it's wonderful, you can stay there and work there, but there's always some kind of confidence and empowerment and independence that you feel when you're building something of your own. So even when you go to your job and you love it and they love you, at least you know that this is a choice that you're making and it's not a desperate thing that you're waking up every morning to fight traffic, because if you don't, then your life is going to be thrown into a crisis. So again, assess your circumstances and decide for yourself. And again, it depends on, you know, what kind of family you come from. I personally could go back to my parents' house and say, look, I need 6 months and I need to get myself together. And they would absolutely support me because I have given them reason to believe that when I say I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it. So it does definitely depend on your circumstances and where you are in life.
Well, you know what I would say, Meek, is you know, because as we know, not every family is fortunate enough to kind of have the backup, which really is a whole nother issue in terms of just how we structure our families. I mean, it's very important to realize your family is your first small business. So family is critically important for survival in this world. I think a lot of people around the world understand this. You see family businesses sprout up in various ethnic communities, from with immigrant populations, things like that. But in case you don't have that, let's say you have family members who don't get what you're doing. They don't want to loan you money. They can't loan you money. If you start selling something, they're not going to buy anything. They're only going to want something for free. Then at that point you might have to create your own economic fortification, and that's really that really comes down to calculating what I call the EEV, or the economic escape velocity. And this was a concept I came up with, and Noam and I actually talk about this in this class we actually created for you guys if you want to check it out, on how to fire your boss. I'll give you the link and a discount code in a second. But basically, the EEV is a measure of how much money you need to have saved and coming in order for you to walk away from your job. And I thought about it because I love NASA. I love watching videos about space. I'm fascinated with how vast space is. And I thought about gravity, and how gravity pulls you back to the Earth when you have a rocket ship. So it has to have enough velocity to escape the atmosphere and get into outer space. So your life is kind of like that rocket. You have your old life has a gravitational pull. It's just sucking you in, like Pookie in New Jack City. Anybody remember that when he said, "It be calling me, man, it be calling me"? Your old life is always calling you. And so sometimes having enough resources set aside and enough opportunities to boost you out of your current situation is what you need. And it varies from person to person. It can depend on how much debt you have, how many people are in your household, how many other streams of income you have in your life, whether you have a partner or not, how high your bills are, things like that. What lifestyle to which you're hoping to become accustomed, maybe where you live. Just a lot of factors come into play. But at the very least, one thing I can definitely say is that you can't go wrong by saving your money and developing your side hustle. So you don't have to leave today, and don't drop and quit your job tomorrow, and hoping that and praying that everything just kind of works out. Don't do that. Start saving, develop your side hustle, save and invest in yourself. And then over time, what will happen is, even if you don't know what you want to do, even if you don't know what kind of business you want to do, if you have money saved up, when you see the opportunity, you can jump on it. There's so many things out here that you can do, so many ways to make money. You don't have to make money by breaking your back for the rest of your life. Now, Jay Katarina says that I see J and I see K, so I hope that I said that right. She says the anger. She's talking about the anger in corporate America that many of us go through. She said the anger typically gets turned inward, and which I agree. Then you see the unwinding, or sorry, the inwardly, and it results in health challenges like hypertension, diabetes, and obesity. That is absolutely true.
Yes.
What really got my attention was when I met a guy that was 50 years old who said that the stress on his job was so bad that it zapped his body of testosterone. So men need testosterone. That's what gives us our ambition, our get up and go. He said he couldn't get out of bed. He obviously couldn't perform for his wife. And I said, I don't want to be like that. I don't want to have my manhood just literally sucked out of my body. They'd really eaten away at his soul. And the only way he was able to cope was by taking this big basket of pills. He said, "Oh, but I'm much better now." And he brings out this basket of pills. And I'm like, oh, God, that's what you need to cope with the racism? No, I don't know. That's not the way it's supposed to be. So let's see here. Alicia says, "I'm sick of this corporate abusive relationship I'm in with my job, and I'm ready to go. When is the right time to go? When you are a mother with dependents?" She said both of us just answered. So okay, so we did our job already. Good. Well, I hope that we're helpful. By the way, one benefit of the class, and I'll give you guys the link. And there's a discount code where you can actually get 25% off the class now and forever. So if you're a member of the platform for the rest of your life, you actually can have 25% off for the rest of your life, for the next 1,000 years. Let me make sure I got this right. So you click on this link, it'll take you to a page where you can enroll for 25% off. And basically the class is called Get the Hell Out, 10 Ways to Fire Your Boss Right Now. And what Nomalanga and I offer you is not only hours and hours and hours of information and content that we've actually created already, sort of laying out all the detailed plans that we made and exactly how we did it, and how we not only got away from our job, but figured out where we were going to go, and then figured out how to get there, and then figured out how to survive once we arrived. But in addition to that, we'll answer your questions. We're there with you. It's almost like counseling, therapy, but also guidance and instruction on how to support your transition, basically. Because in a way, it's a lot like immigration. We're all kind of we're like immigrants seeking a better life who came to America. Well, it's easier to immigrate from Italy to the United States if there's somebody that shows you how to get there, which forms to fill out, where to go once you arrive, how to survive once you're in the new land. So what I really see, and this is why I approached Nomalanga about creating this class, is that I think we're in the middle of this massive migration. this mass migration. It's not just black people. White people are sick of this too, by the way. But in the midst of this mass migration, you have a lot of people that are hearing like, oh, well, I heard that you can make money on the internet, and I saw this kid on TV who made $1 billion in 3 months, and stuff like that. How do I do that? And the internet is an interesting place. It's kind of it's a jungle. It's like sink or swim. There are sharks and fish. And for example, there was one brother Robert actually in our previous academy class who said that he spent $5,000 getting his website built. And I said, you know what, Robert, you made the same mistake that a lot of people have made, that even I was making when I first started, which is they will overpay for things because they don't know that, for example, there are apps, there are thousands of apps and different ways to get contractors to do things for you very cheaply. So something you might spend a lot of money on to have someone custom design it for you, there may be something you can buy for $99 that will come right out of the box with all the functionality that you need, and it's tested functionality, right? If someone custom makes me something like a website, you know what? There are going to be bugs left and right. I'm going to be reaching out to them on email like, hey, the such and such a button doesn't work and this doesn't work. And if you're really unlucky, you'll get a contractor that doesn't even respond to you, in a timely manner because they already got your money, right? But a lot of the stuff that's already made, it's gone through all that, right? Thousands of people have used it. So that's just one example of, and this is why we're offering this service. We're not offering it because we're just like, oh, well, we're just going to get money from people. We're offering it because this is the kind of stuff that I wish I'd had when I was trying to get off the plantation. I mean, what do you say, Noma?
Yeah, absolutely. Again, it goes back to what I was saying about building a community. It doesn't just have to be a community of people who are going to buy from you. It can also be a community of where you're going to get references. Like I can honestly say a lot of the things that I built in my business, it was from people like you who were a little more established or a lot more established than I was, and I could just say, hey, who built your website? You could say, well, I know somebody on Fiverr who can do this for $5 and do this for $99 or whatever it is. Or here, for now, you can use mine, whatever it is. And it all comes down to that community, where, you're going to get mentorship, you're going to get support, encouragement, you're going to get a lot of things. And honestly, the one place that I believe that we need, just somebody was saying, how it's affecting their health and so forth. The one place that you need a lot of help is when you're starting your business or you're about to make that transition. It can feel like your world is coming apart.
Mm,
Um, Especially when you're just not sure where that next paycheck is coming from and your bills are staring at you in the face. You do need somebody to say, you know what? I got up this morning. I didn't know how it was going to work, but I knew that I was going to do it. And maybe just hearing from somebody saying that to you um, is what will get you through the day, get you through the week, get you through the month. And before you know it, you've met some of your goals. So,
mhm.
again, I can't emphasize enough that building a community is a very important thing. I can't think of anything significant that I've done as a person who works for themselves that wasn't through my community, wasn't through mentors, wasn't through workout partners. I've hired coaches. I've done everything that I can, but it was again going back to a community that I had started to build before I quit my job.
You know what? It's funny. As you were talking about that, I was actually thinking about, um, and this is just I hope people know me well enough to know I don't feed you BS. I've been telling you real stories here. I remember when you first reached out to me, Noma. Remember that when how we first started working together? We reached out because you emailed me and you said, and I think you knew it even then. I was pretty busy, and you said something like, "Do you need an editor? I can edit articles for free if you'll show me and help me do some of the stuff that I'm trying to do." Right?
Right.
And and it was awesome in hindsight because it was a win-win. I needed help with editing, and and you needed help maybe with traffic and just expertise. So your blog, you said that you before your blog, you said it would get like maybe 90 or 100 people and
No,
you'd be happy.
I was lucky to get 30 people. If
So
30 people reading, I'll say, yay, 30 people read my blog today. And of course, that's nothing compared to the thousands and thousands of traffic that comes now.
yeah, now it's not uncommon for your websites to have over 10, 20, 30,000 visitors in a day.
Yeah,
You've probably
it's
had
crashed from too much traffic.
Yeah, yeah. You probably had. I bet you. I haven't even looked, or maybe you can look and tell me. But I bet you your blogs have crossed the 10 million mark as far as like
Yes, yes,
total hits.
collectively they absolutely have.
Yeah, and so and where it was a win-win, and this is what is important. This is what I want you guys to understand is that this is the type of commerce that I'm talking about when I say that our goal is not to create just classes; it's to create an economy. It's that I needed support in terms of editing, but we didn't have a huge budget at the time. Your Black World was kind of getting started, and I couldn't pay people the same amount of money that white folks down the street were paying them because we didn't have the capital, right? But she came along and we bartered, and she said, "I can help you edit if you can help me with my sites and grow the traffic." And so not only did I push traffic in her direction, but I also gave her some pointers and tips and information, and try this, try that. Oh, you need help with this, let me push this to my network and see what I can do. And everybody won. It became, as we mentioned in class, a net positive utility situation where both of us were happy at the end. And the other thing about this is really important to understand is that you showed a willingness, Nomalanga, to invest in yourself. You invested in
Right,
yourself by saying, "I'll work for free," and I resonated with that because that's how I got started. I started doing things for free to just get the momentum going, to barter, to kind of get help and support. AOL Black Voice is one of the biggest writing opportunities I had early in my career. I got that because I volunteered to write for them, and but if I had asked for money, if I had said, "Well, I'm not going to work unless you pay me a paycheck," then I would have totally missed. If you approached me and said, "I need you to give me such and such amount of money, and I need you to pay me what I'm worth, because this is what Newsweek would be paying me." You get that, right? You get black people who will get mad at other black people because they're not getting paid what they're worth. But here's the news flash: black businesses can't always pay you what the white businesses can pay. White people have all the money. Why? Because they spent 400 years stealing it from us, right? So you'll have and I had this argument actually with a professional the other day. And he said that to me. He said that's what makes me mad about our people. He said the only people that try to negotiate with my fees are black people, and it just makes me mad because they won't pay me what I'm worth. My white clients don't do that. I said, well, guess what? Your average white client probably has a net worth that is at least 10 times greater than your average black client. So you can't, it's almost like having a resort in Jamaica and saying, I expect the local Jamaicans to pay the same price as international travelers. It's not going to happen. Right? You have to
right,
price discriminate based on the market that you're dealing with. So I just wanted to make that point, that investing in yourself is critical. If you're not willing to invest in you, then why in the hell do you think anybody else is going to invest in you? Because by virtue of the fact that you're not investing in yourself, you're pretty much saying that you're not worthy of an investment. So if your actions tell me that you're not worthy of an investment, then I'm not going to invest in you either. So that's just something I had to throw out there. Robert has a question. He wanted to ask about. Robert owns a sporting goods store. It's called the ProSportsExperience.com, just for the record, so people know this. Robert wants to know, what do you do with the Black Homeschool? What is that site all about?
Well, the Black homeschool actually started because I was a new homeschooling mom 3 years ago, and I needed information and resources and so forth about what it means to homeschool, and not just homeschool, but homeschool Black kids, because their experience in the public school system, especially with us where we lived in a not predominantly white, but an all-white neighborhood, how you kind of take your kids out of that system and into a new system is a very delicate thing, and it's very important to do it the right way. And I could not find that information. I could not find that information. I'm not saying it's out, it's not out there now, but it was a very tough thing to do. And I had to do a lot of research. I probably spent 9 months gathering information and building a curriculum for my kids. I just happened to have a teaching background, so it was a little bit easier for me, but I understood that people needed information, they needed resources, and then they needed stories and information and news about what kids are doing who are being homeschooled. And if you go into the blackhomeschool.com and you look at maybe spotlights, you're going to see lots of stories about little kids who are homeschooled by sometimes a single Black mother, sometimes, a whole family or two parents. And you're going to see stories that encourage and inspire you. You're going to go through some parts of it where you're going to find actual information about the nuts and bolts of it, about what state you're in and what information you need. So it was really just what I needed, and I just got to a point where I thought, you know what, this is a real need, and of course we all know that a business is an answer to a need. So I decided to start the Black Homeschool blog, and it's been the most successful blog that I have.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. I think that's great advice. And I won't say much because I want to make sure we can get to some more of these questions. But yeah, every time something comes up, I always have something a thought that comes with that. But I'm gonna zip it up. Okay, so PJ Gunter, who wins the most enthusiastic Black person in America award. I love PJ. She says, excellent advice, Noma. Um, she says, great question, Dr. Boyce, about dreams. Thank you. Vicky says, I have a passion for the work that I do, but I'm tired of the politics. How can I take that passion and turn it into a business of my own? I work with young adults. Noma, what do you think?
Well, it's just one of the things that I said, start something, start somewhere. Um, I used to teach business and management courses, and the core of it is that you have to find a problem and solve it. So you work with young people, start digging into what their needs are and what their problems are, and how you can position yourself to solve a problem. In the example that I gave about the Black homeschool, there was not that much information about homeschooling Black kids specifically. So I decided, okay, this is an open niche that I can fill, and it turns out I was right. And I don't want to take all the credit for it, because this was built in partnership with Your Black World, and the face of it obviously is Dr. Boyce Watkins. But the point was, we knew that this was something that was necessary, it was needed, and we decided to fill that need. And it's morphed into many different things where people start telling you what they need and you start filling that need. That's really all it is. So I would say, if you already have access to young people, ask them what their problems are. And I can tell you there's going to be a service or a product that you can offer them, their parents, their community, or something. And maybe it may just be workshops. And there'll be schools or communities or something that will pay you to speak to young people, and you're answering, again, a need and a problem. So that's really where you have to start. Answer a need, or solve a problem, and you have a business.
Well, and I think that's a great question, Vicky. And what I'll say is that, I mean, that's why the class exists as well. We want to help you with that. We would love to, answer your questions as you're going through the process, because, I find that developing a business, I always compare it to raising a baby versus making a baby. My students hear me use this analogy because I think it fits in so many ways. A person can easily tell you how to make a baby. You don't have to be smart to know how to do that, right? And it doesn't take that much time, I guess, right? But raising a child is one of those things that occurs over a very long period of time, and you constantly run into all of these unpredictable scenarios where you might need constant feedback, constant information, constant renewal of motivation, or whatever it is, right? And that's kind of what we position the class to be, is a place where you can go through this and not feel like you're doing this by yourself. And in fact, not only do I teach the students that I work with, but I actually partner with them. I partner with probably 40 students. We've had 50 businesses. I don't know if I told you this, Noma, but out of the Black Wealth Bootcamp alone, we've had over 50 businesses form. And I jump in. If I can jump in and connect and endorse and support, I do that, as long as it's not
Right.
inconsistent with my brand. I mean, if you're selling something that I couldn't, that I wouldn't use myself, I can't do that. But if it's consistent, we do whatever's necessary to achieve the goal. Let's see. So Robert says, I've been following the efforts of Dr. Boyce Watkins and my good friend Dr. Roosevelt Mitchell III, a brilliant, brilliant educator, to launch yourbblackeducation.com, and I'm excited about this dynamic resource. I'm currently working in social work and have a strong interest in returning back to the education arena. Great. We need that. We need strong Black educators because our children are being hurt by the system. We know this. In the past, I've worked in K through 12 higher education. Sounds like you need to be a writer, Robert. This is the longest question I've seen in about 8 weeks. Let's see. He's very interested in starting an African-centered independent school and a cultural Saturday school. Economic development, financial literacy will be part of the curriculum. Excellent. What advice would you give me when trying to marry education with economics? Will Your Black Education have some type of curriculum or resources that? Yes. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to answer you right there and say yes, yes, yes. I work closely with Dr. Roosevelt Mitchell III. Amazing educator, brilliant guy. He was actually teacher of the year in his district not too long ago. And what Your Black Education was designed to do was to bring together passionate, intelligent, capable black educators with parents and children and activists who need those educators, so that we don't have to go through the gatekeepers who are hurting our children and more likely to send them to prison than they are to send them to college. We can't have that. This is unacceptable. The children, we know they're our future, and we can't have people aborting our futures and destroying them before they ever have a chance to be born. So, yes, you can marry the two. In fact, not only is it possible to marry education and economics, it is necessary to marry education and economics. Education is critical for your survival, but you have all the education in the world, but if you don't have some sort of economic strategy that allows you to provide for your children and your family and your community, then you're still going to lose the game. So I hope you didn't mind me answering that question, Noma. I was going to move on to the
Oh
next
no,
one. Okay.
please. Yes.
Okay. All right. So let's see here. Cleve says, "What an aha moment. Why spend more time building their dream than building your own dream?" Yes, I agree. Build your own dream. Don't just spend all your time building somebody else's. Jay Katarina says, "How do we find business ideas, and how do we find out what business to pursue?" I think we kind of hit that a little bit, right? How do you turn your passion into a business? What do you think, Noma?
Yeah, and again, and I know I've said this probably three, four, five times, but again, it's building communities. I personally like building masterminds, and
Mm,
you can meet once a week, once a month, once every 2 months, whatever it is that you decide, depending on your schedules and your ability. And when you build masterminds, it's just a coming together of minds, just like it says, and you form a mastermind. And you'll find that you can throw out ideas, you can give each other advice, because people come together with different sets of abilities and expertise. I like to think of my Your Black World family as some sort of mastermind, because we all have different abilities and we all communicate and connect throughout the day online. And many ideas come through, a lot of help comes through. I give a lot of help and I get a lot of help, whether it's with ideas or with solutions to problems, or sometimes it's me giving the solutions to problems. So again, it goes back to your community, and it doesn't take much. All you have to do is go into Facebook. If you want the nuts and bolts, go into Facebook, go in, create a group, call it something that's catchy. If you're in Connecticut, call it the Connecticut Black Business Mastermind, okay?
mm,
And then you'll see people in Connecticut just like you, and then say in the little thing, say, this is for people who are in Connecticut, or black people online, whatever, that want ideas about businesses and they're serious. Before you know it, people will start joining, and then you have your mastermind. All you need really is about 6, 7, maybe 10 people, and then you create the parameters for it. Let's meet online, every however many times, and you're on your way. I really don't like the idea where you kind of have this thing of always getting ready to get ready, and you're getting ready to get ready. And people can stay in that. I've seen people on crutches or wheelchairs still getting ready to get ready, you know, and they die getting ready to get ready. And they have these dreams and these hopes and these things, but they're just getting ready to get ready. I believe the fact that you've thought about it and you've asked about it, and I gave you the answer that tomorrow I should see that Facebook page up, and you should be on your way to doing what you say you want to do.
hmm Well, I agree. I think I think with mastermind groups, I think they can be beneficial. Definitely brainstorming with other people to get ideas. Also, social media is a great breeding ground to test ideas. But also, what I find too is I used to be one of those people that never could understand why you would go and pay someone a lot of money. Like some of these people might charge $1 or $2,000 for a very short conversation. Um, or maybe 1 2 hour meeting or something like that. And and I used to think, why would I pay all that money? I can get it cheaper, I can get it free. But here's what I have found: people that really know how to make a whole lot of money really fast are usually not going to give you that information for free or for cheap. um, they're just not. There are people on the internet. I know a 23-year-old kid, a black. He's African American. He didn't finish college, and he makes about $200,000 a month with Facebook advertising. So, do you think that he's going to give that information away just for nothing? No, his time is valuable, and the information is incredibly valuable. But uh, you know, I was able to make a deal with him and say, okay, well, let me give you something of value. Let me pay you some money. Let me do this and do that, and pay you what you're worth. And he was freely giving of a lot of information. And the reason it's valuable is because what we're trained to do is we're trained to go to a university and spend $80,000 learning business from business school professors who've never run a business, which is very strange to me. But yet, for some reason, when it comes to someone online who has proven that they know how to make money. Selling us something like if it's a class for $2,000, like Lamar Tyler, his class is $1,000. A lot of people say, "Oh, I won't spend that," but yet they'll still go and they'll try to stumble through the process on their own and end up spending $20,000 making mistakes. Hiring the wrong people, doing all the wrong things. And I would just say, look at the math. Really try to compare the two. And I think, for example, with Lamar Tyler in his traffic sales and profit class, Lamar created Black and Married with Kids, and he's proven he knows how to make money. He has 500,000 Facebook fans. They're going to clear $1.2 million in revenue this year solely online. Promoting Black marriage and family. I've seen people take his class and literally go from 3,000 a month in revenue to 80,000 a month with minor tweaks that occurred over a period of 4 weeks. And so, what I will say though is that when you form your mastermind groups, always think about who's in the group and what you're getting and what you're not getting. If you get a chance, there's no better person in my mind. If I'm learning how to do something, I need to learn from somebody who's really done it. Like, don't give me theory and what you think will work. I need you to show me that you've actually done it. You've made money doing it, and you're not just making your money by teaching people how to make money. That doesn't work for me. So anyway, let's move to the next question here. Okay, Sandler says he laughs at himself. Why do you laugh at yourself? There's nothing to laugh about. He says he runs a thriving paralegal service. Okay, nice. PremierParalegal.com. So go support Sandler. If you need a paralegal, go to Premier Paralegal. He says sometimes has trouble brainstorming and coming up with new ideas for his business, which is very which varies from when his mind was overflowing with ideas when he worked at the sales floor at his last job. What do you, Noma, and even Dr. Watkins do to generate ideas? Noma?
I think I already addressed that
Hmm.
with the mastermind. And again, the three things that I recommend is, and I have all three in different forms. I think you need a mentor. And this, of course, is just like you said, somebody who's done it, who knows more than you and has gone through the process, and they know what they're talking about. And again, the way that I got a mentor like you is I offered my services, whatever I could offer that you found value in, and then in return I got information and very valuable mentorship. So you need a mentor. The second thing is you need somebody who's going to keep you accountable. I have an accountability partner. I had two at some point, and this is somebody who you meet with regularly, and you tell them what you say you're going to do, and then they tell you what you say they're going to do, and they check and they make sure that you're doing what you said you're going to do. And then the third thing is similar to a mentor, but a coach. And again, this is something where you might have to spend the money, but again, you have to vet them. Get a coach. Get somebody who, again, has done it and they know what they're talking about. And sometimes a coach doesn't have to be a person that you physically see and physically talk to. Coaching programs come in packages, and it's a webinar like this, and instead of just going on free, you pay for it, or it's a DVD or something like that. And you pay that money, and you take it like you would take a class if you were in a college situation, and then you get to it. There's no magic. People look for this, magical formula or whatever it is, but it ultimately comes down back to you putting in the work and doing what you need to do.
Yes, I agree 100%. And I want everybody to know that Noma agreed that she could get away from the kids for an hour. And we've now hit the hour. Noma, can you stay for maybe 10 more minutes? And maybe we can
Sure,
try to fly through some
sure,
questions?
that's
Okay.
fine.
Okay, we're going to, and the questions we can't get answered, I'll go ahead and take the load on that. You can actually email them directly to me if you want, at boyce@boycewatkins.com. I'll give everybody my email address who's in here so that you can feel free to email me. I also encourage you, if you want specific answers on a regular basis to your questions, feel free to consider signing up for the class. For the next 3 days, you can get 25% off now and forever off the fee, which already is pretty low. I think it's $50 a month or something like that. So or $40 a month, sorry. And with the discount, it goes to $29 a month. And I can just tell you that if you're trying to do this, this information, you'll save thousands and thousands of dollars and earn thousands of dollars, because I hope that I've shown you that I know some stuff that can actually be helpful to you. We just need the money to make sure we pay some bills with it. But what I'm going to do is send my email address out, and also I see Vernon's question. He says he's a college student. He wants to start his own business, and he's asking, how does he get the starting capital? Should he work and save for 5 years and then start the business? I'll go ahead and answer your question, Vernon, and Nomi, you can feel free to chime in. No, I don't think you have to wait 5 years. If you want to start off working for someone else, that's fine, but save your money. And also go read a book called The $100 Startup. The book, The $100 Startup, will explain to you that you don't need, it's not like, 1992 anymore. You don't need $50,000 to start a business. You can start a business for very little money. In fact, Andre Hatchett at blacknotaries.com, I'm going to send you something. He's teaching a class right now on how to be a mobile notary. And in this class, he says you can get started for less than $500. And he explains exactly how he makes his money and how it works, and he's made money doing it. And tons of people signed up for the class, but there may not be any mobile notaries in your city, so that might be a place you can start. Okay, so let's move on here. Let's see.
I
Okay,
wanted to also say,
please.
boys, that in terms of starting a business right away, look at your skill set. I personally love writing, and I'd write for free. But if somebody's going to pay me to write for them, I absolutely do that too. I know people who cook for people who are too busy to cook, and they make that money. Whatever it is that you can start making money right away, as long as you know that it's a stepping stone to building ultimately what you want to build. You don't always have to have this huge gob of money. And again, you get into that mode again of getting ready to get ready. So you have to always start with the little things and build to the big things.
Hmm. Yeah, and okay, so I'm gonna say I see Lisa Guzman is asking. She says she's worked 3 years marketing in another state and would like to develop a product or service based on her experience. Any ideas? I will say, Lisa, based on the amount of time that we have, I can't. I don't think we can really dig into that kind of question right now. However, you can email me the question, and then also, as I said, one of the things that we do in the class is we actually help people to develop their ideas. Like I said, I have no problem being very actively involved. I actually work as an affiliate for a lot of my students, in the sense that I say, okay, well, let me be your first affiliate in your affiliate program, and when I start a new business, you can be an affiliate for my stuff. Even for this class, there's an affiliate program, so we can be very active in terms of helping you get where you want to get to. Now, Meek asked an interesting question. Demetric Shorter says, did you have to battle with a lot of people who didn't believe in your vision? He says, I'm talking about a lot of people who are actually close to you. Noma?
Yes. Yes, absolutely. In fact, that's going to be your biggest fight. There's people who saw you in your diapers and they can't imagine you being an independent businessman or businesswoman. And unfortunately, that's just how it is. They could either be your biggest encouragers or your biggest deterrents. But what I would say to that is there are going to be people who are going to encourage you, and that's where you need to look. And again, it goes back to a community. Build a community of people who are also building. We have the same problems. They also have maybe a mom at home telling them to get a real job, or a wife, whatever it is, telling them that this is, nonsense and get a real job, or, or whatever it is. And I'm not saying that people should absolve themselves of their responsibilities. I'm just stating the fact that sometimes the people who you thought would encourage you the most are going to be the people who are going to discourage you the most. So that happens. I've never known anybody who started a business and didn't have somebody close to them tell them that they were wasting their time or they were doing the wrong thing, or sometimes just say things that just bring them down. That's just something that you're going to have to learn to get a thick skin and keep pushing in spite of it.
Hmm. I think that's absolutely true. A lot of people, not everybody's going to see your vision, and that's just life. And in fact, the bigger your vision is, the less capable people are going to be able, or the less capable people are going to be when it comes to trying to understand what you're doing and why you're doing it and how you're going to get it done. And sometimes their inability to see your vision isn't so much driven by the fact that they want to distract you or want to harm you or undermine you. Sometimes it's because they just don't have the same ability you have. If I'm sitting there, and let's say I'm best friends with LeBron James, and he says, "Oh, I want to be the greatest player in the NBA." I'm not going to get that because I would never, I'll never have that much talent. So I may cite all these statistics and say, well, only 1% of 1% actually make it. But, the rules may not apply to him the way they apply to me. I'm not that tall. LeBron is. So, so sometimes people can't see your vision because it's not consistent with what they're accustomed to, what they were trained. It's not within their set of capabilities. And then what's also interesting is that when you finally do it and you finally succeed, and people watch you, they're going to learn from you. You're going to expand their horizon of possibilities. They're going to say, "Wow, well, I thought to myself, if you could do it, then I can do it too." And you'll see other people rising to the occasion. So don't try not to take too much offense to it. Sometimes people are just telling you what they know. When I had relatives telling me I was crazy for trying to have my own business, those same people came back later on, years later, and said, "Well, how do I do what you did?" Right? So that's kind of how it works. So Noma, I'm going to let you answer one more question, and then, like I said, everybody, you've got my email address, so you can feel free to shoot over your questions to me. And I get a lot of emails, but I spend a lot of time responding, so I'll definitely say something to you and respond to you. Okay, Osa asks, or he says, it's being your own boss is very good in principle, but in reality, it's a difficult undertaking. I agree. Nothing worth having is ever going to be easy most of the time. Uh, what advice or strategies would you have for someone who is starting from zero? By that, I mean very little cash and no job. Noma, do you have any thoughts? I have some thoughts, but I'll let you go first.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay. Here's what I will say is this. Um, you're never, ever, ever, ever broke. You're never at a point in your life, if you're a healthy person, a healthy human being, you're never at a point in your life that you don't have some kind of asset, some kind of wealth that you can invest to achieve your goal. Even if you have no money and no job, well, the fact that you have no job means that you've got at least 40, maybe 60, 80 hours a week of free time, right? So that's an asset right there. That's a very valuable asset depending on how you invest it. So, you're broke. Okay, obviously you got to figure out how to eat every day, right? So take care of that. Make sure you have a place to live and food on the table. Keep it at a minimum, and then invest your time learning. Get online. Look around and see what's there. Pick up some skills. Learn. Get certifications online that you can then flip and sell into commodities that can bring income in for you. There are businesses that you can create for just a couple $100s. It may not be ideal, it may not be your final destination, but it might get you to the next level so you can focus on bigger objectives. When I first started independently, I did not start where I am right now. I started at a fraction of where I am right now. And I just built. That's what they call bootstrap growth in your business. I just built on each level, and when I got a little extra money, I'd reinvest it and do something bigger and a little bigger and a little bigger. That's what you have to do. I don't know about you, Noma, but that was kind of my experience. What do you think?
Right. The thing is, we have to understand that sacrifices have to be made, and what you can do is you have to find people to help. There's a mom out there who needs a babysitter. It's a little bit of money. There's somebody who needs the lawn mowed. If you have an accounting degree, there's somebody who needs help with their taxes. There's always something, and you just have to be looking for the opportunity. I think that the sad part of working a job for me was I often had a very narrow vision in terms of how I could make money, and I had to learn how to broaden it. I had to look into all my abilities until I started blogging. Maybe it was about 2008, 2009. I had never written much except just for my own personal, just writing for myself, just and never publishing it. But I've come to a point now where I make a decent amount of money just from writing. And because I love writing. So I just tapped into something that I loved already. And I can cite so many things. When I was in graduate school, struggling, my parents helped me with tuition and so forth. I think I had 3 different jobs. One of them was babysitting some kids somewhere. And again, the money helped me get through that year that I needed to get through graduate school. So I can't believe that a person has absolutely nothing and no job. It just means that there's a slight limitation in terms of looking for opportunities, and that you're not seeing the people who need help. find people who need help. People need help all the time, and if you can help somebody, they will reward you for helping them.
Well, I love it. I think this is a great way to finish. And before I let you guys go, I want to remind you, I sent you all just a link just now. The blackbusinessschool.com is set up to be exactly what it sounds like. I use the word black unapologetically because it's for black people who don't have time to waste, who want good information at a quality price at a fraction of what you pay to go to these colleges, things like that. You also know about the Black Wealth Bootcamp. I challenge you to go anywhere on the internet, anywhere, and look at all the reviews. The reviews are very, very favorable because we work overtime to make sure people get exactly what they need. And I lean on the 20 years I spent teaching on college campuses to give you something that's not going to cost you what it would cost you to go to a university. And also, if you want the discount code, one more time, the word freedom can be used to get a discount on the class that I teach with Noma. And also, if you want the direct link on how to go to the class and sign up at the 25% discount, which exists now and forever, there's the link one more time. So thank you guys for coming by. This has been so much fun. This is Nomalanga Mhlauli-Moses from healthyblackwoman.com. Thank you, Noma, by the way. It's always a pleasure seeing you.
Thank you.
Yes,
Thank
and
you. It's been my pleasure.
absolutely. And me, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins, and we're both from theblackbusinessschool.com. So I hope to see you guys again. Please take care. Bye-bye.